You all know I travel constantly to make these wonderful quilts and show them off all over the world, but I gotta say, most of the time I arrive, that's all that's left of my luggage tag. So today's video, we're making an indestructible luggage tag. Let's get started. I'm going to walk you through this industrial, super indestructible luggage tag, and what makes it awesome is it's basically all one piece of fabric. Much harder for the airline, even that gorilla on the Samsonite commercial, to destroy. So let's get started here. You're going to need a little bit of a James Thompson canvas or duck. It's a 9-ounce that I'm using. I want to do the black. You could also, like I showed you, just do a neutral and write on it with a Sharpie, but we're going to put our business card in this one, right? So you've got your canvas. Bounce into the description below, please. Right next to that subscribe button is a free printable that will give you all the math and all the measurements you need. So you're gonna go ahead and print that out. And then as you can see, I've already done here, I've basically have chalked all of those right onto my canvas so that I can cut them out. But I wanna point out real quick that this here, as it even says in the diagram, is on the fold, because we're going to basically make ourselves like a bow tie shape to start with. So I'm going to make sure that's on the fold there. I've used a ruler while chalking, so I'm going to use a ruler while cutting as well. It also helps keeps our hands safe. So I'm just using my regular rotary cutter here, and I'm not cutting too far past into my little section, because I don't want to get that little extra crease in there. And one of the other things you can do, hopefully you've got your new Shark applicator already. You can do a lot of your fine little cutting with this if you like, to get in there like that. If you don't want to use a ruler at all and you've got a fairly steady hand, of course you can just go ahead and cut this out this way. I love this tool, it works fantastically. Get that little thread out of my way there. Now, what we're gonna also need, we're gonna need some clear vinyl. So you have probably a roll laying around from all your other wonderful projects. You just need a little square that's gonna be about 3.5 inches by 5 inches there. And let me do this actually with a ruler, because I was talking and I let it shift around. So eyes down while we're cutting. Make sure everything works perfect. Don't wanna lose any fingertips or any fabric tips that are important for our seam allowances. Okay, so we got that all tidied up. Now, what I was starting to say is we have our clear vinyl, and you've got a 3.5 inch piece, which you probably can't even see, right, by 5 inches, but it's gonna cover over where that business card goes, right? So basically, it's the same width as our tag is gonna be, and then what I'd like you to do is I want you to take and stitch over about 1/4 inch from the top, so you just fold it down, real easy. And that's going to help our business cards stay in place. Now, with your machines today, I want you to be all set up. You probably have a denim needle in because you're sewing through the canvas. I'm also using a polyester thread because it's an industrial project there. And so I'm just going to do a quick stitch across this vinyl. Little back stitch there. Lock that down. We'll be using 1/4 inch seam allowance for everything, so I do have an edge guide also in place. We're just going to trim those tails off really quick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set these in right sides together. So if you're using a printed fabric, you're going to set them right sides together. And again, it's early in the morning. The caffeine is flowing deep in my blood. And I want to really point out, we have not cut out this inner rectangle. That will be done at the very end. So it's chalked on there so we can see it, but it's not cut out. So therefore, that became my right sides. Right? And so I'm going to take this piece of vinyl with my flap is going to point in to the actual card holder. Then I'm going to fold this over like this, and we're going to stitch around. We're going to leave it open at the bottom. So we're going to start here all the way around and leave that opening there for you. Okay? So let's do that together at the machine here. If you've got a needle down function, it's a good thing to have engaged. We're just going to go nice and smooth, capturing that vinyl up and around. I'm going to pivot at that corner, come in again. Even with my edge guide, I can pivot at those corners so nicely. And I'm going to back stitch at the top. I'm not going to necessarily have to go all the way around there because of that fold. Starting again, coming down, preparing for the corner. This time I lifted that in the luggage tag over that seam guide there. Almost got my finger if you were watching close. I know, years of sewing, I get a little overconfident, so you always want to be a little more careful probably than I am being. Okay, now, next thing I want to do to make this fold out as pretty as possible, let's cut off these corners, both at the tag and at the top where the fold is going to be. This will just make life easier for turning this right sides out, which will be the next phase here. Oop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach my hand up in here and I'm going to slowly start pulling this thing right sides out, and it's going to take me a little bit of wrestling, so I'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. I've got the tag turned out, and I did use the back of my shark applicator to poke in some of those corners. Easiest if you get the body turned first, and then you'll be able to pull out the little tab itself. Now what we also want to do is we're going to trim the bottom here just to get those loose threads off, because we're going to turn this inside itself and stitch across the bottom to top stitch it closed. So once I've trimmed it down like this, I basically am just going to kind of poke at the edges to turn it in. I kind of start with the corners. We're just going to roll it inside of itself. Oop. Sometimes I wish I had an extra set of hands. There. Pinch it with your vinyl, roll that in, roll your corners, just like that, and then I'm going to pinch it down and then head over to the sewing machine and just secure that with that same 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to back stitch at the beginning. Whoa, lots of stitching at the beginning, and back stitch again at the end there for us. Okay, now this is the last phase we want to do. Remember I said I wasn't going to cut out this opening first. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to like quadruple stitch 4 times around that and then cut it. Now, if you have a machine that you're very comfortable doing buttonholes with, that do a very nice large buttonhole, you most certainly can use a buttonhole stitch for this. That's what it's designed for. But I knew that not all of you would have that capability, or some of you are brand new at sewing and this is your first project. So I didn't want to overwhelm with buttonholes. So the other way is just quadruple stitching. And I'm just kind of using this same edge guide now, and I'm just going around my tab. And now we're done with those 4 passes around that chalk mark that was on the inside. And at this point is another great time. You could use either of your rotary cutters. And I'm going to cut just slightly to the inside of where that chalk line was and my stitching line was. And I find that if I make 2 long cuts and then I come back in with my scissors and cut, and cut, there we have an indestructible luggage tag. To customize it, you put your business card right inside the vinyl here, and then you can also stitch that closed to make sure it never comes loose if you don't want to switch out the card. And then once it's on, you're going to slide it through one of the rings on your suitcase, and then this tag part goes right in through there to form the slip knot, and that will stay on your suitcase until the gorilla that works for Samsonite gets a hold of it and tears it off. But don't fear, we will have a new project for you by that time right here at Man Sewing.